Look at this video. This video has been shared by Russian and Ukrainian military bloggers. This is a video of Ukrainian special forces or just soldiers crossing the Dnipro river, crossing to the left bank of the Dnipro river with speedboats. We see two boats, so this contingent is about 2 squads. Of course, the West eats it up. Everybody is saying, oh, the Ukrainian counteroffensive has begun. They have crossed the Dnipro river. Well, we have to talk about it. We have to analyze it a little bit. This is a military map that covers the crossings and the Ukrainian held territories on the left bank of the Dnipro. As you can see, it's cursor right here. The green is the contested area, as you can see, and the blue is Ukrainian liberated. Well, in this case, we have to take it with a grain of salt. It is the area where Russian military bloggers have geolocated Ukrainian troops, Ukrainian forces. And as you can see, this is the Antonovsky Bridge, the biggest and the only bridge, the biggest bridge connecting the two banks. And Russian military bloggers have geolocated Ukrainian forces crossing from this blue area here right next to the Antonovsky Bridge. And they have forced the highway. This is a very swampy area right here. Both sides of this bridge and this highway are filled with swamps and untraversable landscapes, no heavy equipment whatsoever. So Ukrainian forces have been seen forcing this highway all up to Oleshki, the nearest biggest settlement. And this is as far as they have been seen. Supposedly there are also crossings on these islands. The ending of the Dnipro river, these are these islands. The river is divided into a few smaller rivers, and these islands are also very hard to traverse and very hard to keep because transporting any equipment there is difficult. So fighting with special forces over these highlands has been going on from the liberation of Kherson. I've seen reports about it. I've only reported it once when we had video of Ukrainian special forces crossing here, crossing this area with speedboats. And after that, I didn't report on it anymore because it happened every day. Every night. They're fighting over these islands and there's no claim because this is a gray area, very hard to hold. So this information, as sad as it sounds, that Ukrainians have crossed the Dnipro, it's nothing new. They always have, ever since the liberation of Kherson. The fighting has been going on, reconnaissance battles, probing the enemy's defense lines. But since the information came out public in such a big way that Russian military bloggers catched up on it and spread it, everybody wants everybody to talk about it now, so I will. In my eyes, this is not the beginning of a counteroffensive. Nothing has really changed out of the ordinary. Just another day of Ukrainian special forces crossing the river and testing out the Russian defensive positions. The only thing that has changed very slowly over the past month is when Kherson was liberated, they crossed, they did some recon battles and they went back. Now they have established some stronger positions on the left bank of the Dnipro, but nothing that can be used to launch a counteroffensive from. This is my take on it. To launch a counteroffensive, you need artillery, heavy equipment. Both of these are not transportable over the Dnipro under enemy fire right now. For Ukrainians to take any positions to be used for the future counteroffensive, they would have to take some buildings in the Oleshki city or more roads, because this area, as I said before, all swamplands. You go in here with your equipment, it will get stuck. So how to approach this information? I will approach it this way. It has always been happening ever since the liberation of Kherson, but now the information was put on a huge bell. That's it. Nothing has really changed here. I'm sorry if I disappointed any of you. That's my take. You can of course have a different opinion on this. Put it in the comments, educate me. But it's all part of the Ukrainian information war, information operation, a huge part of which is to sow fear and panic into the Russian soldiers' minds. Proof that this is working is, you know, this fighting here has been going on for a long time, but ever since it went public like this, Russians immediately made this video. This video is made in Oleshki, the settlement I showed. Russian soldiers video proofing that they hold the city and there's no need to panic. Now, who do they say this message to? The Western allies are not panicking. This is meant for the Russian troops. It says two things. If they have to make a public video for their own troops, that says that they don't have the communication links to directly give this information to the troops. They have to make a video for the troops to find it out online. That shows that their communication is horrible. And second of all, they know that their troops are very prone to panic. They feel they have to make this counter move. Panic is the greatest weapon Ukraine can use in this information war. If Russian troops panic and they leave their positions, drive to the position and it's yours. And panic starts with spreading information like this, that the Ukrainians have crossed and the counteroffensive will begin or has begun. It doesn't matter who is spreading this information, it is perfect for Ukrainians. It spreads fear into the Russian mindset. It makes them jumpy, it makes them tense. They cannot think clearly anymore. And when Ukraine actually attacks, the enemy is already mentally exhausted. I would call this peak information war right here. To wrap up this topic and to balance things out, I will read you a tweet I really like. So before people go crazy, no, there is no crossing Dnipro offensive, there is no bridgehead. There are scattered reports of Ukrainian forces having positions on the left bank of Dnipro. This has happened since they liberated Kherson. It's a roadless swamp. That pretty much sums it up. Let's take a look at the Russian losses before the counteroffensive begins. And I have to talk about the counteroffensive a bit. There is talk, oh, it will begin in April. Now there is talk, it will begin in May. Well, I am on a position now that it might even go and stretch until summer. It might begin in June or July. But again, the fact that so many people talk about it right now means that Ukraine has pushed their information operations into full gear, and the more people talk about it and the more people speculate about it, the better. The more question marks there will be and the more confused the Russian soldier will be. Russian losses lost 187,080 troops plus 660 KIA in the last 24 hours. 8 tanks, 8 ACPs, 12 artillery systems. Russian military bloggers are complaining that in the southern front, in the Kherson front, it's an artillery duel. And Ukrainian artillery is many times more precise and they shoot less rounds with more precision, so they're more effective. This is where Russians use the most artillery. And the Russian military bloggers have said that Russian artillery efficiency in the south has decreased many-fold because Ukrainians have been systematically destroying the artillery pieces. In Bakhmut, Ukrainians hold about 20-25% of the city still, and Russians are advancing very slowly. Sometimes they take 1 to 2 buildings a night, sometimes a block. This here is Krainia Street right here, and Russians have advanced to it. As you can see, it makes a line right here. There's a small Ukrainian salient right here, but they have to pull back. I mean, they're pulling out very slowly. And as we have talked about it before, Russians are running themselves bloody, playing right into Ukrainian hands, depleting their offensive capabilities right for the time when the counteroffensive begins. A few days ago, the first Russian unit actually reached one of the roads that Ukraine used to supply Bakhmut with, but they were pushed back with the counterattack. Every time Russians take something, Ukrainians do counterattack. If they take it back, they do. If they don't, then Russians claim some ground. This is how it works. Now, I cannot show this video, but I recently watched a video, maybe you've seen it, a very detailed video about the defense of the sides, keeping this Bakhmut cauldron open for the Ukrainians. The sides are very well defended and it's extremely important. These forests you see here are all bombed to oblivion. They're not forests. You can see it on these photos. The trees, nothing left from the trees. They're all bombed down. In this video, a Ukrainian squad was in their positions when suddenly about 20 meters from them, 5 Russians appeared. They got really close. The squad leader got up, commanded his men to the positions, but the men didn't want to move. They were afraid. They were all in this one trench. So the squad leader took the things into his own hands, jumped out of the trench, ran a little bit and took down 5 Russian troops. Single-handedly. A typical Rambo moment. This video again proves the 5-to-1 KIA ratio with Russia to Ukraine. I didn't see Ukrainians losing any, but I counted 7 Russian KIAs alone in this one video. You saw what the guns and the bullets did. There's no missing it. Ukrainians are fighting with teeth and nails to keep this bag open. Also, there are reports on the Russian side that Russia uses Wagnerites and Mobiks to storm head-on in Bakhmut city, and the Desantniks and Spetsnaz are on the sides. And Russian military bloggers are extremely mad at the Ministry of Defense that they are throwing away Desantniks, throwing away Spetsnaz, who are very expensive and take a lot of time to train, and their equipment is incredibly expensive, and they're being used as infantry without armor support. But the more they do it, the better for Ukrainians. This is Crimea, and this is a satellite image made into a video showing Russian fortifications in Crimea, deep in Crimea, showing their fear. I mean, if they dig trenches far away, 250 kilometers away from Ukrainian front line, that shows you how they think and what they're afraid of. Okay, so I'm guessing these orange lines are the trenches, and this line right here is the dragon's teeth, because it's nothing else. It cannot be anything else, because they wouldn't dig trench lines straight like this. It must be dragon's teeth. It would make sense to put dragon's teeth here and the trenches back here and they are zigzag like that. It is a defensive line, it's a good one. Although usually they have three defensive lines, but it's 250 kilometers from the front. And supposedly these lines here are manned by conscripts. Conscripts who are 18, 19 years old, and they have been called just to do this 1 or 2 year conscription in Russia. Not connected to Ukraine in any way, and by law they cannot be sent to war, but supposedly they are manning these trenches. Remember these videos when Ukraine used these boats, drones, marine drones that they rammed into Sevastopol port? It was an extremely cool video. Everybody loved these drones. Well, another one of these attacks happened last night. 2 of these surface drones, marine drones, were used to attack the port of Sevastopol. You would think Russia would learn from the last time. They would put a chopper up like they did and shoot the drones, or put the chain up like they did, or train their dolphins, whatever they're doing. But no, these drones got through, and 2 explosions happened last night in Sevastopol. Russia is just unable to keep their Black Sea fleet safe. They cannot defend their ships. Ukraine is chipping away slowly at the Russian fleet. Ukraine doesn't even have a navy. Do you hear it? Do you hear the ground shaking? It's Prigozhin spreading his clown wisdom again.
То, что мы сейчас этих парней видели, да, из Александра Невского. Грязные, блядь, мокрые, сука. Неужели, блядь, когда их туда отправляли?
Words that come out of his mouth, it's filthy. Whatever he's describing, the way he speaks, it's just dirty.
Нельзя дать влагозащитные костюмы. Блядь, кусок клеенки, про который говорили. И в итоге как они будут выполнять боевые задачи? Когда он, блядь, думает только об одном, как чуть-чуть отогреться, блядь, трясется, блядь, рукавицы у него там или перчатки мокрые.
I don't know what he's talking about. He's the leader of Wagner troops. When the first colds came and Russia didn't have winter uniforms, well, now they do have. That was solved, but only after about 1,000 Wagner troops got hypothermia and died in the trenches. We have videos of those troops being like zombies. Grenades dropped on them, they don't even move, they just fidget a little bit because their mind is switched off already. It's so cold, numbing cold. And here is leader of those troops talking about how, oh, they should have given them clothes. My friend, he is responsible for these decisions. He's playing hide and seek with himself. Who's responsible for this? Oh shit, I am. Oh my god.
Насквозь. Оружия нету, блядь, батареек нету. Приборов никаких нету, никто не понимает, что происходит, блядь. Как в 41-м году, блядь, определяем на своих позициях, кто где находится, блядь, выстрелом. Выстрел есть, значит, блядь, еще живы, блядь. Просто уничтожение, блядь, русского народа. Ничто иное, блядь, как геноцид, блядь.
You can see he's pissed about it. Well, he's talking about the gear situation of the Wagner troops and the Russian army, and he's not happy with it, but he's responsible for it, so it's a bit funny coming from his mouth. Also mentioning, oh, it's like 1941 again, it's genocide, sending these troops to die like that. Well, he gives these orders to send these Wagnerites to storm the Ukrainian positions, sometimes with only 2 magazines and without any food. And he doesn't like it, so he's giving orders he doesn't like. He's a very conflicted person. Prigozhin has also now said that Wagner troops will no longer take any prisoners. And if you hear any kind of these citations from any Russian leading position figure, I will tell you how to translate it. You mirror it. Russian army and the Wagnerites have issues with their troops giving themselves prisoner because they're better fed in the Ukrainian POW camps than in the Russian army or Wagner army. Recently this is a problem, a very big one. So Wagner saying that we are not taking prisoners anymore means actually that we have an issue of our troops giving themselves in. And this sends a clear message to Wagner troops that, oh, we're not taking prisoners, that means the Ukrainians are not taking... It's a reverse psychology, that's how the Russian mindset works. In this photo we can see the Ukrainian D-20 howitzer being covered by an anti-loitering munition net, anti-Kamikaze drone nets. About 2 months ago we saw videos of Russian trenches being covered with these nets, and I said, yes, they are effective, they're just expensive. And now we see Ukrainians using them, so they are effective, they work. They will stop this kamikaze drone loitering munition. It will explode on the net or it will get stuck to it. Both ways, the howitzer or the trench will be intact and okay. But the thing is, to cover trenches with these nets is incredibly time consuming and resource consuming. You need a lot of these nets. Covering artillery, of course, is a different topic because you don't have hundreds of miles of artillery pieces. You have a few of them, you cover them, you save them. And Ukrainians are adapting because Russians are using their kamikaze drones more and more effectively, unfortunately. So these nets are now a new standard of this warfare. Now we have a video of a Ukrainian farmer, Alexander Krivtsun. His fields are near Kharkiv and they're still not demined because Ukrainian demolition crews are having issues cleaning the streets. I mean, there's no way they're gonna clean the fields. Unfortunately, farmers have to do this on their own. So let's watch how this farmer solves the issue. And it's a very big issue for the next 50 years. Ukraine is mined to oblivion.
БМП броню з одної сторони, з другої сторони. Поцепили брус, поставили, щоб від осколків захистити його. Ну так, обшили. То теж від осколків пошили, метал прицепили. Тут прицепили на этот самий. Теж, щоб при взриві, як певно, яким-то образом. Рашисти бросили БМП.
There's nobody in. I know this tractor. Everybody in the former Soviet countries have this tractor. It's Belarus, it's called. It's like, yeah, the Belarus, the country. Well, it's also a tractor. It's the most produced tractor in the Soviet Union. Everybody has this. He has made it remote controlled and put a lot of metal into it. And now it's a minesweeper suddenly. Very cool, very creative. And if it works, great job, because Ukrainian main export is crops, actually. This gets them closer to exporting crops again. Making money, financing the victory.
Ми забрали броню і поцепили. Робити почали його ми ще з осені. Поставили автопілот, гідравлічне управління. Ми не вірили, що на К-150 можна його поставити, але поставили. Він працює без механізатора. З імпортної техніки поставили так гідравлічні клапана. Умільці зробили, поставили, перепрошили програми. Ті, які з імпортної техніки на нашу. І трактор Т-150 працює. Стоїть до мільйона.
That's what I'm saying. That's the Ukrainian mindset. You improvise, you adapt, you overcome. Oh, I'm just a farmer. I'm not a demolition crew. My fields are mined. Oh, I'm going to plant some crops. Oh, I have this old Belarus from the Soviet times. Well, heck, let's improvise and adapt the hell out of this situation. I mean, put a remote control on it, slap some metal slabs on it, and boom, no mines are gonna get against me. Slava Ukraini, that's what I'm talking about. That's why Russia cannot win.
Щоб краще був сигнал, я бачив трактор. Дистанционным управлением. То есть на нем находится газ, вправо-влево повороты, то есть включение автопилота и отключение автопилота. При сильном ветре, то есть появляются помехи.
I mean, he's a farmer. He has a new job now. I mean, every field there is mined. All the farmers have the same issue. If he clears his farm fields, every surrounding farmer will want to pay him to clear their farms also. And he would have this job for the rest of his life because there's so many mined fields and everybody needs to grow crops on these fields.
Ну, а когда ветра нет, то есть ясная погода, видимость идеальная.
Дуже багато заміновано. Роботи ДСНС дуже багато. Я скажу, що їм огромне спасибо, тому що тут рядом поле, з якого витащили, винесли 250 мін противотанкових і 10 мін протипіхотних. Вони не вспівають. У них зараз задача лінії електропередач і газопроводи населення в першу чергу. Вони там не вспівають. Ще й ми просимо, поможіть. І тому ми йшли на те, щоб щось зробити, щоб ми могли...
The government doesn't have the time, so we decided to do something. That's the civil society waking up in Ukraine, doing something about the situation our own, taking matters into our own hands. I love it. I love to hear and see it. It's motivation. It's motivative.
Вийти в поле. Село Гракове саме дужче постраждало в Чуйському районі. Ви бачили, розбите село, все розбите. І люди саме більше постраждали, саме більше розбитих хат. І всі ці люди, 400 чоловік, мої пайщики. Якщо я не засію, я і за прошлий рік не платив оренду плату. Якщо я не посію, я їм не виплачу. Тобто вони і так наказані. Та ще і я, якщо не захочу. Тобто нам треба сіяти, з людьми треба розраховуватись. Їм треба допомогти.
My friends, I want to thank you for coming back time and time again. If you like this channel, then you can support the channel by becoming a patron. The link is in the description below, and subscribing to the channel. I appreciate you coming back, and I like making these updates for you. Until my next video, my friends, Slava Ukraini.